Multiple insiders have dropped a bombshell Pittsburgh Penguins trade report. As the Pittsburgh Penguins continue to retool this offseason, Kyle Dubas is trying to upgrade in one position in particular, and one player in particular will be shipped off to a Western Conference team. We're going to break that all down in this episode of Penguins Digest because you don't want to miss anything here. There's a lot of shocking details in this report, and it looks like the goaltending position will look very different shortly, but we're going to break that all down in this episode of Penguins Digest. But before we do that, a quick reminder to hit that subscribe button. About 68% of you who watch these videos are not subscribed to the channel, so if you want to stay up to date with everything that's happening with the Pittsburgh Penguins, go down below, hit that free subscribe button, because this is the place to be for all your daily Pittsburgh Penguins content. But Nick, let's jump right into it. We have multiple reports from multiple different insiders as it pertains to Tristan Jarry, and that's been a topic of conversation for a long time. He's clearly not that great anymore. He's had his moment, a couple of years ago. He did look pretty good, but obviously for the contract and where the Penguins want to go, maybe it's time to move off of him. And this is from Elliot Friedman on Tristan Jarry, and he said, Jarry, does anyone look there? He just kind of threw it out there in the last, not much of a report, but just kind of threw it out there in his last 32 Thoughts podcast of the year. But this from Jeff Merrick could make some sense, actually, and I want to break this down. And you said, I don't know how Bowman's going to do this. I've wondered about someone like Tristan Jarry, obviously going to Edmonton. It would certainly take some retention on the Pittsburgh side of things. Now, we'll get into the specifics in a second. If Pittsburgh wants to retain salary, they can retain salary on anybody in the league at this point, really, if they really wanted to. So much salary cap space, and that's why Kyle Dubas opened them up with that much flexibility. But Nick, I'm going to throw it over to you. Does this even make sense for the Edmonton Oilers? Does it make sense for the Pittsburgh Penguins? Because we'll take a look at the goaltending depth in a second. I don't know if these guys are ready enough to take over from Tristan Jarry. What do you make of this?
I mean, of course it makes sense for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You're looking at a guy who they sent to the AHL last year. I think Kyle Dubas, was like, okay, we're done with this. Let's literally play anyone else, because how can they be worse than the games you are getting from Tristan Jarry? As you can see right there, he had a well below a 900 save percentage. I think an 883 or 893. I can't even. Yeah, 893. That's it's really not that good. The record actually, it's also not good. Nothing about that that we're seeing is good. The career looks good, at least. You can hang your hat on that a little 909 over there. It's not too bad. But I think for the Oilers also, it does not make sense. I don't know how this makes sense for the Edmonton Oilers. You're looking at a guy who's in year 3 of 5 out of contract at $5.375 million. The Oilers are cap strapped. This guy's worse than Stuart Skinner. He's arguably worse than Calvin Pickard, and he's making way more money than both of them. So if Stan Bowman gives Kyle Dubas a call and he's like, I want Tristan Jarry, you say, okay, Stan, take him. You don't even need to hear the rest of the phone call. Retention, whatever it may be. Get this guy off the Pittsburgh Penguins. He, even for his sake, he needs a change of scenery. Penguins fans eat him alive, maybe rightfully so, because he's playing so bad. He's not even that old yet. He's been on the team for a long time. He took over from the Murray Fleury regime that they had, and he just, unfortunately hasn't been that good recently. But the Penguins, they also haven't been that good recently. So maybe it could be a mutually beneficial trade for the Penguins to trade him. But if we're talking about the Oilers, I don't know why you would take a flyer on him instead of just playing Stuart Skinner for another year.
Yeah, and I mean, when you look at retained salary like you brought up, I mean, first of all, if that phone call comes in, like you said, you just say, okay, great, let's get this done immediately. I don't care about the specifics of the deal, but you have $13 million in cap space. You can retain any type of salary that you want right now. Of course, there's different retention spots, but, they can do it if they want, and you can get a third team involved as well if need be, especially across the league, but don't see that being an issue. And I thought this was interesting. There was another report on the Edmonton Oilers side of things that I sense, this is from Mark Spector, I sense the Oilers will go after a better goalie to help Stuart Skinner. It may come at the expense of Calvin Pickard, but like you brought up, on the Edmonton Oilers side of things, is Tristan Jarry, as he is on the Pittsburgh Penguins, better than either of the goaltenders that they had, and both of them played in the Stanley Cup final, not necessarily well. I mean, you can put that's up for debate as well, but doesn't really make too much sense. But for the Pittsburgh Penguins, I mean, if they come calling, For a goaltender who's below league average, even for his career, a 909, I mean, is pretty good. But league average right now is hovering around 901, which is much lower than it has been in previous years. He's far below that, right? And he was below that this year, and was sent to the AHL, like you brought up, at some point. He makes $5.3 million, I should say, excuse me, almost $5.4 million. And has 3 years left on this deal that he just signed. So he has had moments where you're like, okay, this guy's definitely a starter. He's definitely putting in some good work. But lately, especially last season, he definitely lost it. You could tell he was mentally checked out in some of the games. So I think that's pretty scary. And now backing him up this year, because they just traded Alex Nedeljkovic. We had a video covering that last weekend. They traded him away. You have Joel Blomqvist as well as Sergei Marashov in the minors, and Marashov looks like he's going to be the guy. First of all, like the numbers that he's putting up in the AHL are incredible, like way above league average, especially for what you see in the AHL. So he looks like he's going to be the next guy. He's only 21 years old. He's not ready though yet, right? So that's the thing. Do you go full rebuild? This is another interesting monkey wrench, and I'll throw it over to you again, Nick, that like if you do end up trading away Tristan Jarry from the Penguins side of things, at least, because I do believe that, Stan Bowman would look at Jarry and be like, there's potential there. Maybe he's better than Stuart Skinner, right? I do believe that. But from the Pittsburgh Penguins side of things, if you trade away that guy, it's just the fact of the matter. You are going to be worse. And I know a lot of people are going to hear that and be like, how could you possibly get worse? But you're going to be worse. And then do you look at Sidney Crosby, and is Sidney Crosby happy next season, right? So what do you make of that as well?
Well, I wouldn't worry about the Penguins being worse without Tristan Jarry, considering how bad he was, to be honest with you, Darius. I understand the sentiment, though. If you look at, NHL goalie, has a lot of years in the NHL, especially if you're comparing him to, I believe, Blomqvist and the goalie they have in the AHL, who I will admit I am a little unfamiliar with.
Yeah.
But that guy should stay in the minors, I feel like, next year. He's still way too young, especially when you look at the goalie developmental curve. You basically want to over ripen these guys in the AHL where like their numbers are like unbelievable, where they're like 1,000% should be NHL. You don't want them to come in, especially on a bad Penguins team that has some good defensemen, but who are not strong defensively. He's just gonna get rattled. A lot of Penguins fans might remember when they rushed a goalie who just retired, Marc-Andre Fleury, into the NHL, and he got rattled immediately. And some might say that was good for his career because, he's a Hall of Fame level goalie. I believe 3 Stanley Cups, a Vezina Trophy winner. But, that might not work for another player. So I think trading Jarry is the move if you look at asset management. But I do think a goalie would have to come back in that trade that can play NHL minutes. That specific situation we laid out with a guy like Calvin Pickard coming back, that could make sense if you do want to stop, put a stopgap between him and their goalie who was coming up. And, maybe Blomqvist could be a little better eventually. Right now, the numbers are obviously not that great. 16 games played, just, a poor save percentage, unfortunately. He's still pretty young, I believe, as well. I think it's he's like 23.
He's only 23, yeah.
So a lot of time to be given there, of course. And I think, the Penguins goaltending situation, there's a lot to be worked out, but Kyle Dubas has, it seems like he does have the ability to make trades like this. I kind of remember a trade with the Maple Leafs when he traded away Nikita Zaitsev and didn't really give up a whole lot in terms of sweeteners. I believe it was Connor Brown, but he also got back an NHL player in that deal. Penguins fans might remember Cody Ceci was actually in that deal. So, you're kind of looking just to get off the contract and the cap hit. Luckily, the cap has gone up a lot, and I think you had it there, Darius. Their cap space was a lot, so it's not really anchoring them as much as it used to be. But I'll throw it back to you. I think the Sidney Crosby conversation is interesting. Like, how bad do the Penguins really have to be? Because he seems loyal. There's been a couple reports that say, like, if push comes to shove, it might get to a point where he would be like, okay, like the Penguins are too bad. I'm not going to be playing much longer. The prospects aren't. I don't see them as enough to be like ushering in a new era. Like with respect to the McGrody's and the Brett Kindles who we talked about, none of them are like a Sidney Crosby level prospect. Obviously, those are generational type. But if he doesn't see that, they're so bad next year, Darius. I think all these trades we talk about do come back to Sidney Crosby somehow. So I'm curious what you think about that.
Yeah, I think that, the way it stands right now, the way I truly believe what's going to happen is, he doesn't want to leave. He wants to be a Pittsburgh Penguin. When push comes to shove, though, if they are that bad and they're not getting like Galvin McKenna next year, then I do believe that he would, be up to a trade. But again, I do believe that he's going to finish his career as a Pittsburgh Penguin and try to usher in the new era of Pittsburgh Penguins and some of these younger guys. But I think it could get interesting next year if you looking at Dubas and going, why are you trading away everyone? Why are you trading away every single piece that could actually make a difference on this team? Like, somebody has to stay and somebody has to score and play goaltending or goaltender. And if you look at the goaltending depth on this team right now, it is heading into next season. It's Jarry. So if you trade him away, then it's Blomqvist. And I like your point about getting Calvin Pickard back as maybe a backup or a starting goaltender as well. Like that would have to happen, first of all, for the Penguins side and the Oilers side to free up cap. But they can make it work if they want to. So it's going to be very interesting to see what they end up doing. I wonder if the Oilers kick tires on that. Could make some sense for the Pittsburgh Penguins, but they're going to be significantly worse in net. But when it comes to Murashov too, leave him in the minors. You had a great point there. Leave him in the minors. Let him continue to develop. But let us know how you feel in the comments, because it sounds like Tristan Jarry could be on the block as well now. And if the Oilers want a goalie and they're open to taking Tristan Jarry, if you're Kyle Dubas, you make that trade. You make it happen. So let us know how you feel in the comments. And if you haven't yet, hit that subscribe button so you can stay up to date with everything Pittsburgh Penguins.